Monica Goulet is well known in Saskatoon. She's worked with the City of Saskatoon and with the Saskatchewan Police Service. Goulet has also been a school teacher and has worked with the Office of the Treaty Commissioner. Hi, Monica.
Hi, Jill.
These days, for you, life has sure taken a different turn, though. You need dialysis 4 times a day as you await a kidney transplant. Tell me more about your experience and why you need that transplant.
Well, I was actually born with a genetic defect, and it wasn't diagnosed until I was about 26 years old. When I was a child, I was quite sickly, and I was always having to take antibiotics for kidney infections and bladder infections. So in my 20s, I went and saw a doctor, and I said, I don't understand why I'm always getting these infections. And he said, well, have you never seen a specialist about this condition? And I said, no. And so I went and saw a doctor, a urological specialist, and at that time he discovered that I had a problem with my ureter called reflux action. He said, you were born with a genetic defect. And he said, did nobody ever tell you about this? And I said, no. I said, it's the first I've heard of it. And he said, well, I looked at your records and I found that you had an x-ray taken by a radiologist when you were 13 years old. And at that time, your x-ray already clearly showed that you were having some scar tissue in your right kidney. And so by the time I saw him, so this had happened when I was 13 years old, but nobody had ever followed up with me or told me. And when I discovered this, my scar tissue was pretty much 95% of my right kidney, so I had to have it removed.
And now you're in a position of needing a transplant. What are the chances of getting a live match?
Well, that's a good question because both my sister, Arlene, and my son, Joshua, had both volunteered to be my donors. And your chances of living a longer life with a live donor is actually better than if you get a cadaver kidney. So my family stepped up to the challenge. Unfortunately, they were not a good match, and so now I'm on the cadaver wait list as of February of 2015, waiting for a kidney.
And currently you have dialysis 4 times a day. How has this changed your life? Obviously in a considerable way.
In a very huge way, because I was a person who didn't drink, I didn't smoke. I took good care of my health. I did everything you needed to do to live a healthy lifestyle because of my losing my 1 kidney. And so I had been on a trip to Puerto Vallarta with my husband in 2011. And up until that point, my kidney function had been up to about 60%. And while I was in Puerto Vallarta, I got extremely sick. I was throwing up every night. And I came back and I found out that my body was very acidic and toxic. And so my kidney function declined almost overnight from 60% to 20%. So at that time I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease. And it affects your life in a very huge way, particularly because of the fact that life as you know it has changed. I had to have an operation a year ago, and I opted for peritoneal dialysis. So basically I have to fill my peritoneal cavity in my abdomen 4 times a day with clear fluid to remove the toxins and then empty it out. It's called a twin bag system. So it's almost like a full-time job trying to stay healthy. And it changes your life dramatically. You're not able to take baths anymore because you could risk an infection in your cavity. So you have to take showers, and I used to love my baths. You're not able to really participate in water sports in the same way. I used to love snorkeling. Was probably my my all-time favorite activity. So you're not able to do that either. So there's lots of things, and I suppose lack of energy is the biggest one. And fortunately for me, I work with an excellent healthcare team at St. Paul's Hospital, and my doctor is Dr. Reed, and he encouraged me to go back to the gym Because as you can imagine, you know, I had body image issues with having to carry this 1,500 milliliters of water in my abdomen. You know, people even asked me if I was pregnant. And so it's life-changing. Your body image changes. You start wondering about your mortality and what you're here to do. So changes your life in lots of different ways. And so it's really, really important to have family and community support, and also to help to raise awareness in the community, Jill.
And that's what you're helping to do tomorrow. You demonstrate such resilience and strength, and you're sharing your story and some of that at the Fright Night tomorrow night for the Kidney Foundation in Saskatoon. What's the message you want people to take away from your story at the fundraiser tomorrow?
You know, I've been reflecting a lot about that, and as I mentioned to Garth, I said, you know, you look at people like Gord Downey, such a huge loss to our community all across Canada. And to me, he embodied the spirit of reconciliation. You know, there's so much need in the Indigenous community for donors. And I know that there's lots of people out there, if they could opt for, you know, signing their donor cards and letting their family know their wishes. There's so many people that could benefit from having a kidney transplant. I'm just one person out of many. And there's lots of people that are waiting for a kidney transplant, wanting to have a better quality of life. We want to be here for our children. We want to be here for our grandchildren. And we want to be here for our families and our communities, for future generations. And if you could give that gift of life, I think it would mean so much to many people.
Sharing your story will help to make that happen. I promise you that, Monica.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Jill.
Thanks for sharing your story tonight. All the best tomorrow night. And we also wish you all the best in news as far as a transplant goes. Thanks again, Monica.
I appreciate that. Thank you.